Pipeline surveillance operations have intensified across the Niger Delta region as authorities deploy new technology and community partnerships to combat crude oil theft and illegal refining. Now, the private security firm Tantita Security Services, owned by government, Epe Mupolo, has acquired advanced surveillance drones from U.S. defense contractor Textron Systems. Now, these unmanned aerial systems feature long endurance and vertical takeoff capabilities tailored for monitoring creeks and swampy terrain. Advocacy groups credit the surveillance model with stabilizing crude flows and boosting production levels. However, challenges persist as illegal refining and pipeline attacks continue. Now, observers urge transparent oversight and deeper community inclusion to maintain momentum. For more details about the measurable impact of pipeline surveillance in the Niger Delta region, the convener of the Niger Delta Progressive Alliance, Victor Udoh, joins us now. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsday, Mr. Udoh.
Good afternoon. It's nice being here.
Yes, so this is interesting, this use of technology to essentially survey the entire or the region of the Niger Delta. Can you just walk us through what you've seen, how it's improved the situation, if at all, and what more needs to be done?
I heard that we're discussing the measurable impacts. Before we talk about what has been deployed and what is not deployed and how much is needed to be done for this to guarantee self-sufficiency in energy in Nigeria, in measuring this impact, I would like us to put it from three core lines. First, environmental. Second, social. Then lastly, the oil and gas itself as it relates to revenue that accrued to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. While I said environmental first is because the Niger Delta had suffered a lot of degradation as a consequence of exploration, but it became so terribly bad as a consequence of pipeline vandalism and other criminal activities in the region. And the engagement of third party on the issue relating to pipeline surveillance has opened up the opportunity for the surveillance, has opened up opportunity for vandalism to be brought to almost zero level, has opened up opportunity that the environment is no more degraded, because the lesser vandalism you have, the lesser environmental challenges you're going to have as a consequence of degradation. That is why I started from the environment. The environment is the most important because we will come and go and we will leave the land for our children, and our children will leave it for our unborn children. It therefore means that anything that we do that help us preserve the ecosystem and is working is something that we should be very, very, very happy about. Pipeline surveillance, by the way it is structured, and by the way it has been able to address the issue of vandalism in the Niger Delta, has brought a measurable impact on the environment. In that, in recent years, we can beat our chest in the region and said there are lesser environmental degradation. And in some instances, except the one that is as a consequence of tear and wear or major accidental occurrence, but the human action and inaction or interference that had hitherto caused spill, that had hitherto caused environmental degradation, that had hitherto destroyed the environment because of illegal refining, through the pipeline surveillance, it has been taken care of significantly. Then I come to the social. Governance is a social contract between the people and the leadership and the government, if you will want. That is why proponent of democracy, that is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Pipeline surveillance have been able to galvanize the local people, especially in the eastern corridor of the Niger Delta, where the Trans-Niger pipelines. It has been able to galvanize the people significantly to the level that the social trust that had hitherto disappeared between the government and the people of the Niger Delta relating to oil and gas has been restored. It means that with social confidence, with implementation of social contract, the social question that raises conflict, that raises tension, that gives people the possibility of producing more criminals in the environment is addressed. Then I come to the big one, which is the measurability of this surveillance job on the economy of Nigeria relating to oil and gas. I want to take us through a short joining that before pipeline surveillance becomes so pronounced 3-4 years ago, let me be specific, in 2022, Nigeria was doing 1.1 million barrels. I remember very well there were times where most of the billboard you see in the Niger Delta was about stop oil theft. 500,000 barrels is being lost to oil theft. Through pipeline surveillance, this issue has been reduced to almost zero level thefts. And it therefore means that when we produce oil from the oil wells, it goes to the terminal for either export, and it can also travel to the local refinery. What does that mean? That is where we begin to get 1.5 million barrels per day. That is when we began to get 1.8 million barrels per day, including condensate. It implies that the economic benefit supersede outgrow the original intent of just stopping spillage. The economic benefit to the Niger Delta people means that the more revenue of oil we get, more 13% goes to the states for infrastructural development through the state government. That is why when you go to some states in the last 4 years, 5 years, you will notice that infrastructural development have become so significant. The more oil output we get, the more the 3% that the PIA says should go to the host community goes. That is the direct benefit to the Niger Delta people. To the Nigerian states, it can guarantee that there will be money for its budgetary implementation. This year's budget is pegged at 1.84 million barrels per day. We're already doing 1.8 million barrels by last year, November, and by this year, January, if I'm very correct. It shows that the budgetary expectation will be met. Then, lastly, globally today, we are not ignorant of what is going on. Without proper pipeline surveillance that has helped Nigeria have access to available crude that we process and sell to local refinery, to be precise, the Dangote refinery, we would have been suffering the shock that Europe is suffering today, that in some countries of Europe, there's already 50% energy increase as a consequence of a temporary shutdown from flows from the Gulf states. Pipeline surveillance that has resulted in Nigeria's ability to protect what she produces to the terminal of export and to the terminal of refineries for refining and for domestic consumption. If you're going to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, I think that pipeline surveillance have added value to the Nigerian energy self-sufficiency to the degree of 8.
All right, Mr. Udoh, you've touched on so many dimensions, looking at the environmental aspect, the social aspects, or oil and gas, and also the larger global perspective. Appreciate the backdrop on that. But when we look at the Niger Delta, in terms of the dynamics, what we understand is that, there's still legitimate community grievances in spite of what you said about the social aspect, about environmental degradation and economic marginalization. There's also talk of criminal networks still profiting from theft, even if it's reduced to an extent, and political actors using security contracts as patronage. So tell us specifically, when you look at these factors, which of the problems these contracts are actually solving to a degree that is worth celebrating? Briefly, please.
I did not fully complete my thought on your first question. Let me complete that because you talk about the use of technology. And the use of technology is what will drive us to the conversations about how to debalkanize the advocacy that we should debalkanize, decentralize pipeline surveillance into smaller units and all these things. Technology is required. Expertise is required for you to carry out surveillance in the creeks, the thick mangrove of the Niger Delta. It therefore means that it is not everybody. I give you an example. On the eastern corridor of the Trans-Niger Delta pipelines, the mangrove there are so thick that you need additional technology outside the conventional technologies that we know to do two things. Number one, to track the pipelines and keep a proper monitoring to ensure that there is no human interference with it. Number two, to be able to track the point of required response. Technology is highly required. It therefore means that it is not everybody that can have access to this technology. Then the issue of agitations, conversations around the issues, the conversations that persons are giving pipeline contracts for political reasons or for whatever reason. I want to digress a little. If there is need to construct a road from Ikorobasi town
Mr. Udoh,
to
I'm
Edemeya,
sorry, you can't digress. We have 1 minute. You can't digress. Please get to...
Okay.
Okay.
What I was trying to say is that expertise is required. And then the engagement of the people is highly expanded. Anybody that tells you that the engagement of the people in the region is not expanded, I think is living in yesterday. Because some of us who had either seen the whole structure as something we should not be interested in, we've been reached out to, persons have been reached out to in the comfort of your zone. They'll tell you, you're a stakeholder, and because you're a stakeholder, your opinion about how this thing should be done must be brought to bear. I give you an example. Most times at the end of every month, stakeholders meetings are held in Bayelsa, in Rivers, and the thoughts of the people are brought to the table on how best surveillance should be done in their communities, and adjustments are made on this proposition of the people.
Victor.
And it therefore means that the level of inclusivity is significant, and social contracts of governance and leadership must be respected, because not everyone has the capacity, the energy, and the strategy to respond to pipeline surveillance.
Okay.
Those who are doing it successfully. We should give them the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
And for the first time in Nigeria, what is working,
Victor,
we should not stop it.
We've
working,
run out of time.
We should not stop it.
I'm afraid we've run out of time, but Victor Udoh, thank you very much for joining us on Newsday to talk about, all the developments being made in the Niger Delta.